Hi everyone, welcome to my multimedia introduction. I'm doing mine similar to how I'm doing all of my lectures for this course. I like to use PowerPoint to serve as an outline so that I don't get my talking points all mixed up. So one personal thing that you can know about me is that I have ADHD, and therefore it's sometimes a little hard for me to follow a straight path from the beginning to the end. I sometimes tend to wander around. My mind also functions as a concrete, boy, it just went out of my head. I am not a concrete sequential person, so I don't tend to follow in sequence. I am a concrete random person, and so my mind tends to order things in what other people might see as a random pattern, but is really actually a network of highly interconnected ideas and concepts. So here's my personal introduction. Let me just say before I start mine, you can do your introduction however you want. I do want it to be using some kind of a media though. You can use your telephone and make a video of yourself that way. You can use Prezi or some other online software. It's just up to you. I'm using PowerPoint for my slideshow, and I'm using Zoom. So if you have created your own personal Zoom account, then you can do something similar to what I'm doing. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see my PowerPoint. I've put tons of pictures in here, which means since I haven't edited them to make them smaller in size, this is a huge file size, but I like to put in the pictures so that it will give you an idea and a little bit of a better idea of the things I'm talking about. So my biggest news, the new news, not fake news, but true new news, is that as of yesterday, on June 27, I am a grandfather. My first granddaughter was born. Her name is Honora Gabrielle Burton. You can see her statistics there. Picture of her mom, Yolanda, my daughter-in-law, before labor began, and then my son Jeremy getting to enjoy all of Yolanda's hard work after the baby was born yesterday. So I've been showing these pictures to several of my colleagues today, and they say, "Oh, that's nice. When are you going to get to see her?" And I say, "I'm leaving tomorrow." So they just laugh at that, but what can you expect? I'm a new grandfather. And this is going to be a fun journey that we go on. So this is my son and daughter-in-law, and let's talk a little bit about the rest of my family as well as tell you a bit more about Jeremy and Yolanda. So Pamela is my wife. We've been married 37 years. She just retired at the end of this past school year. She taught elementary school for more than 20 years. Almost 21 years of those were in Benton Harbor area schools. If you know our local area here, right around Berrien Springs, you might be familiar with the town of Benton Harbor north to us. And so she worked there 20.9 years, all except I think 2 of those years she was a reading specialist, working with children who had problems reading and helping them to overcome their reading challenges. She loves to sew and work on projects around the house. We also love to camp and hike, as in like backpack, that sort of stuff. And the exciting thing for my wife is that she's going to be spending a lot of time with her granddaughter and her granddaughter's family, because my son and his wife have asked her to come and take care of Honora while they're at work, because they don't want strangers taking care of their baby. And since my wife retired, she now has that opportunity to do that. So it's a transition time for her, but she's very excited about being able to spend so much time with her granddaughter as well as her son and daughter-in-law. Then in this picture, you'll see my wife, Pam, and my daughter, Danielle, where we are eating a supper at Ruby Tuesday, just finishing it up. We're having dessert there. And we look a little grungy there because this is from about 3 weeks ago. My wife and I went down and helped our daughter move from one apartment complex into another apartment complex. She came to discover that the place she was living wasn't really the best place to be living, and I won't go into details as to why, but she found a better place, a safer place, both physically, well, physically for many different reasons. And so we went down and helped her move over the holiday weekend, Memorial Day. She's a PhD student in mathematics at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. She has about 1 more year to go. She's finishing up her dissertation, and she's the proud mother of 2 cats, Zorro and Diana. We've talked a bit about Jeremy and Yolanda, but I didn't say anything about where they're from or what they do. They live in the New York City area. They live in a city called West New York, which is in New Jersey, just across the Hudson River from Manhattan. They both work on the island of Manhattan. Jeremy works in publishing for W.W. Norton. They're primarily a publisher of textbooks for university levels. And then Yolanda works for a nonprofit that focuses on women's and civil rights issues, making sure that voices of underrepresented peoples are heard in areas like public broadcasting and through podcasts and those sorts of things. They both enjoy their jobs a great deal, but they're not particularly happy about raising a child in New York City. So they're exploring options to move to other places. One thing I love to do is travel. Almost all of my travel has been business related. So on the far right side, you see a picture of the old town hall in Toronto. This spring, I went to Toronto for the American Educational Research Association conference. I get to travel to go to conferences. I'm invited to present research workshops sometimes, and that means I generally travel alone, or sometimes I travel with one of my colleagues. Some of you may know Dr. Kajai from the Graduate Psychology and Counseling department. He and I often kind of tag team in presenting research workshops. He'll do the quantitative, statistical presentations, or an entire workshop of 2 or 3 days on quantitative research, and I'll do the counterpart. I'll be having a qualitative research workshop going at the same time. Then, I get tired of traveling alone, and this past year at Christmas time, I was very happy that my wife was able to join me on a trip to Australia. It's kind of one of those dream trips, one of those bucket list trips. We had a great time down there. The weather was perfect. It was just before their summer heat began. Everything was green. The people are wonderful. And if you ever get a chance, I highly recommend Australia. Now, another thing that I enjoy are cats. These are the 2 cats we currently have. On the left and in the center, you see my wife's cat. His name is Ernest. We adopted him about 2 years ago, I think. On the right side is my cat. His name is Teddy. Teddy was born just outside our house, outside one of our windows. His mother had been dropped off, probably already as a pregnant cat, and left to fend for herself and possibly die, because we had seen her when there was still snow on the ground. And then later, around July 1st, we saw her and 5 kittens. We actually saw the kittens playing around right in front of the glass of one of our basement windows. So we concocted a plan and caught the kittens and the mother was not feral. As soon as we got her inside with her kittens, she calmed down, started following us around, begging for food and water and helping us, asking us to kind of help take care of her kittens. And so we kept one cat from that litter, Teddy, and he sort of latched on to me, so he's my cat, and Ernest has latched on to my wife, so he is my wife's cat, although they both enjoy a lot of attention from both of us. A third thing I really enjoy is humor. These photos are from a restaurant that I was eating in Toronto for AERA, and the first time, I actually ate there twice, and the first time I was there, I didn't even notice these signs over on one edge of the restaurant, one wall of the restaurant. But then the second time I ate there, I saw them, and I thought they were quite fun. And so I took a picture of a few of them. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is something about my work history. I come from the K-12 field. I was an elementary and/or middle school teacher from 1982 through 1995. Total of 13 years. Most of those were in small Seventh-day Adventist schools that were multi-grade. So that means you would have 8 grades and 1 or 2 teachers. The largest school I taught at was while I was doing my PhD coursework here at Andrews, and Ruth Murdoch Elementary School, the university's elementary school, ended up needing a science teacher for grades 5 and 6 for about 2/3 of a school year. And so I taught there. I had 100 students in my science classes, 3 different science classes, and I had 32 in my homeroom class, which was a mix of 5th and 6th grade. Since 1995, I've been here at Andrews, so I've been here 24 years now. I started July 1st, 95. I was officially hired as a assistant professor of teacher education. Then over the time, I've kind of absorbed different emphases that I do. So now I refer to myself as a professor of teacher education curriculum and qualitative research. I've had a lot of fun working at Andrews. I've experienced a lot of stress working at Andrews, particularly related to the times when we have accreditation cycles happening, which we happen to be in an accreditation year right now. So one thing that does for me is it triggers a lot of migraines. So if you don't hear from me within a day or even 2, it might be that I'm in a migraine spiral. I usually come out of those at least enough to function for a bit within a day or 2. So hopefully it won't affect our interaction in this class. The last few days have actually been quite good. I've only had like 1/2 day of migraine in the past 7 days. So that's unbelievably good for me. That's the best since January 1st of this year. So that's me in a nutshell, and I look forward to getting to know each of you better. Remember, whatever kind of media you want to use to present your introduction is up to you. Some people just like to take their cell phone and hold it up in front of them and talk to it and tell about themselves, and that's fine. All that needs to happen to be successful in this assignment is that you use some kind of a media other than just print, and that you tell us something about yourself. All right, so look forward to seeing each of your introductions and getting to know you better. And I hope each of you has a great weekend and that the first week of this class went well.